Welcome to Stat Masters. I'm your host, Evan Ringler. Every week on this show, I bring you quick-hitting statistical takeaways to give you an edge in your fantasy leagues. All the player stats that I mention on this show can be found at PlayerProfiler.com. You can also tap into a variety of rankings that I'm involved in, including weekly, seasonal, dynasty, and more. Let's get it started with James Cook. Cook is currently the RB10 in points per game with 16.9. However, he's also a committee running back with middling efficiency, which is why his expected points per game is 13.4 or RB25. From a volume perspective, Cook averages 12.1 weighted opportunities per game, ranking 27th among running backs. His carry share routinely hovers between 30 to 60% based on game script, and he also ranks 27th among running backs in target share. James Cook's volume is that of an RB2 or RB3. Now let's look at his efficiency. He ranks 24th in breakaway run rate, 19th in true yards per carry, 21st in rushing EPX, 34th in juke rate, 41st in yards created per touch. Again, these metrics paint Cook as a fine running back, but nothing special at all. So why is he smashing in fantasy? Touchdowns. In 2023, Cook scored 6 touchdowns on 281 touches for a rate of 2.1%. This year, he scored 14 touchdowns on 200 touches, or a rate of 7%. This is unsustainable over the long term. James Cook will be incredibly overvalued this offseason, especially in Dynasty, and I urge you to fade him. He's a mediocre committee back that happens to be in the perfect situation. Now let's look at the Seahawks play volume. Early in the season, I did a similar segment on Stat Masters about Seattle's play volume. At the time, they ranked top 3 in both plays per minute over expected and dropback rate over expected, so very high pace and very high pass rate. But this has changed drastically over the last 2 months. In the last 8 weeks, Seattle ranks 26th in plays per minute over expected and tied for 13th in dropback rate over expected. While they were once first in the league in projected pass attempts, they are now middle of the pack. Most weeks, there will only be room for one Seattle wide receiver to produce in fantasy, and more likely than not, that will be Jackson Smith-Njigba. Speaking of Seattle wide receivers, DK Metcalf has averaged just 8.8 points per game over the last month, despite seeing a 21% target share and 41% air yard share. However, this is nothing new. In DK's 6-year career, he has scored more than 14.5 fantasy points per game just one time back in 2020. DK is a tough player to evaluate. Clearly, he has the size and speed to beat anybody, but he's not a great route runner, and he's objectively bad at the catch point. This year, he has caught just 13% of his contested targets, worse than the NFL. A giant, physical wide receiver like DK should be near the top of the league, but he refuses to attack the football while it's in the air. This is how DK ranks in terms of key wide receiver metrics. 59th in target rate, 35th in target share, 9th in air yard share, and 43rd in yards per route run. He's also the wide receiver 33 in points per game, despite being the wide receiver 16 in expected points per game. I put this underperformance on DK, not on Geno Smith, as Metcalf's target quality ranks 13th among all wide receivers. Now let's go to Atlanta. Over the last 8 weeks, the Falcons offense ranks 31st in dropback rate over expected and 31st in plays per minute over expected. They've been extremely slow and extremely run heavy. I expect both these numbers to rise with Penix under center, as he gives them an immediate chance to get NFL quality quarterback play, which they haven't had with Kirk Cousins. This passing offense has looked great at points this year. London is a legit number 1 wide receiver, plus there are plenty of good secondary options with Mooney, McLeod, Pitts, and Bijan. Another positive for Atlanta pass catchers is that Penix is still a pocket passer, despite clearly being more mobile than Kirk Cousins. I'm ranking Penix as a high-end quarterback 2 this week versus the Giants, and all of the pass catchers will rise accordingly. Now let's go to a quick word from the Podfather.
Oh, incredible news about Fast Draft. Fast Draft DFS is live. It's called the Flex 6 Frenzy. You just draft 6 guys, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends for the Sunday slate. You like Jahmyr Gibbs? You like Jackson Smith-Njigba? You like Tyrone Tracy? Draft him, draft him, draft him. And the beauty is you can just order 5 teams, submit your rankings, and Fast Draft will email you the results. We awarded $1,000 in prizes our first week, and we're just going up from there. Soon there's going to be a select 6. No drafting at all. You just pick any 6 guys. Our DFS mantra, just say no to salaries on Fast Draft. Don't forget there's free tools on Fast Draft too. You want to get ready for startup season? We've created the best Dynasty mock draft experience there is. And if you want to play in these DFS contests, and our best ball contest for 2025 coming very soon too, just use promo code PODFATHER when you deposit and you get a free draft. It's that easy. And you're like, oh, I already have Fast Draft. Great. Refer a friend. Have them put your username in as the promo code, and then you and your friend will both get an instant deposit match up to $25. We got DFS. We got Dynasty Mocks. We got Best Ball. It's all there for you on fastdraft.app. Check it out. And the promo code is PODFATHER.
If you haven't checked out Fast Draft yet, you can use code EVAN for a 100% deposit match up to $25. Right now, there's 2 weekly tournaments that are live right now, and there's a playoff best ball contest that's coming very soon as well. Now, let's continue with Deebo Samuel. It seems that Deebo still has his yards after the catch abilities, as he ranks 3rd among wide receivers in yak per reception, behind only Jamison Williams and Khalil Shakir. He also ranks 1st among all wide receivers in juke rate. But his fantasy fall-off has nothing to do with yak. It's been directly tied to volume and touchdowns. As a target earner, Deebo has been on the decline for 3 straight years. His target share and target rate have fallen every year since his league-winning 2021 season. This year, Deebo ranks 43rd in target share, 49th in target rate, 54th in yards per out run, 43rd in expected points per game, and 52nd in actual points per game. However, some of this is related to touchdown luck. Over the previous 3 seasons, Deebo scored a touchdown on 9.4% of his touches. This year, he's down to 2.6%. This year, the 49ers have scored a touchdown on 20.8% of drives versus 33.5% last year. If the 49ers offense was still elite, Deebo likely would have been just fine in fantasy this year despite the lower volume. However, it's unlikely that Deebo's ever in a situation that great again. The most likely outcome is that Deebo's time as a top 30 fantasy wide receiver is cooked. Now let's look at Jalen Coker. Since week 8, Coker has played in 4 games. Over this stretch, he is averaging a 21% target share, 36% air yard share, and 12.9 points per game. Over the whole season, he has a yards per out run of 2.21, which ranks 24th among qualified wide receivers. At 6'1", 208 pounds, Coker has a 65.3% slot rate, ranking 12th. He also has a depth of target of 11.8, which ranks 3rd among wide receivers with a slot rate over 50%. Among that same group of 20 slot wide receivers, Coker ranks 6th in target rate versus man coverage, ahead of guys like Chris Godwin, Khalil Shakir, and Jaden Reed. He also ranks 4th in yards after the catch per reception and 6th in yards per route run among that group, ahead of Jackson Smith-Njigba and Josh Downs. This is a very interesting profile as a potential power slot wide receiver who can also win downfield. Coker is more than a flash in the pan, and there's a solid chance that he could be a good wide receiver in the long term. I will be pushing to move him up in the dynasty ranks this week. Next up, Xavier Worthy. While Worthy's rookie season has not been great by any means, I do see hope. One obvious factor is that the Chiefs immediately trusted him to play close to a full-time role, instead of waiting until late in the season like they did with Rashee Rice, or they never did with Sky Moore. In addition, Worthy is a few big plays away from being viewed as a strong rookie season. He ranks 10th in unrealized air yards, 59th in catchable target rate, and 53rd in target accuracy. The simple fact is that Patrick Mahomes has struggled this year with deep ball accuracy. On 20-plus yard passes, Mahomes ranks 31st in completion percentage, 27th in accuracy rating, and 28th in catchable pass rate. Now, I'm not saying that Mahomes can't throw deep anymore. I expect him to be better than this in future years, and Xavier Worthy will be the primary beneficiary. The primary factor towards this, in my opinion, is the horrible offensive line play in Kansas City. Xavier Worthy has lost a bit of dynasty value this year, but we should not be panicking. Lastly, let's look at Tank Dell. In my opinion, this is the most disappointing healthy player in all of fantasy football this year. As a rookie, Dell averaged 15 points per game, ranking as the wide receiver 18. This year, he's at 9.1 points per game, or the wide receiver 54. In terms of metrics, there are no real redeeming qualities. He ranks 50th in target share, 71st in target rate, 46th in air yard share, 45th in expected points per game, 67th in yards per out run, 57th in EPX, 44th in route win rate, and 57th in yards after the catch. The one excuse you could use is that he's actually not fully healthy. After all, he was coming off of a broken leg and a gunshot wound. But still, we would hope to see him at least improve as the season progressed and after the injury to Stephon Diggs. Instead, he's basically been the same player all year. That's it for this week on Stat Masters, and you can join me again next week for more actionable statistical takeaways.
Hey, I want to thank you for being part of this broadcast. If you have any thoughts on it, leave a comment. If you enjoyed it, make sure you leave a like. And if you want to see more shows on the Player Profiler channel, subscribe to it. That's how we know you want more.